My apologies.
Good to see you
Um,
again.
so he is a level 3 QHHT practitioner, which means he puts people in hypnosis. And you only one, yes, I have produced scripts, so just go on the side. And what I love about the hypnosis is it really opens up your imagination too, or at least it did for me. And you were saying that it's a different experience for every person, but when you go into hypnosis, um, you're you are guided by your higher self, right? Or
Yes.
so. And if I remember correctly, you talked with me for quite some time before I went under hypnosis. Why do you do that, and what kind of questions do you ask to help prepare someone for the hypnosis?
Oh, I love that question. Yeah, so this is part of the process. It is a 4 hour process in total. And first, we sit down with the client to talk about their life and the questions that they've brought in. And this is for me to get a more thorough backstory to what's happening with you and your questions and your life, which will allow me to ask more effective questions once I talk to your higher self. But it's also to build rapport, to create a relationship of comfort and of trust so that people are actually, feel safe to kind of let go and to be vulnerable.
Oh,
So it's a very important part. So, I mean, for me, the questions that I ask are kind of like about somebody's history, sort of the more practical things. Oh,
oh, there you are. There, I was
it
like
is there.
pressing, but I was pressing buttons. I want everyone to see you better because I wasn't sure. Can you guys see him? Okay. I hope so. But anyway, you actually look much. I can see you better now. All right. So sorry for the interruption.
So, yeah, I just asked like questions about people's lives, like what was it like growing up with your parents, or how was school for you? What did you do after school? What kind of relationships were you in? What about your career? Where is joy for you in life? I find it a really important question because it has people drop into their heart when we're talking,
Mhm.
and when people drop into their heart, it kind of like is a preamble to the higher self coming in. So I typically ask a lot about people's like feeling experience. So if they're telling me that they had a good childhood, then I want to know like what was good about it, and what the relationships were like, and how like their parents made them feel. So it's kind of like giving the inner self more space to talk, rather than sort of getting stuck into the like summarizing all the details or the events that happened. I'm really interested in connecting with the inner feeling part of a person, because I mean that's just what I like as a person, because it's a very intimate process, but also it sets a person up to have a more like to have more access to this information that is dwelling inside of them once we do the regression and I talk to the higher self.
What usually, when you meet your clients, what usually brings them to you? Is it like something like a general theme, or is every single one different?
Yeah, it ranges the gamut, kind of like a lot of people find this work because they have physical issues that like traditional medical science didn't know what to do with,
Mhm.
or chronic issues, and they want to find out about the spiritual root of it and possibly get healing with it. But also, people are just very curious about, what is my life purpose? This is usually the first question that they bring in. They have a sense of like being in their job or their career and feeling like there's got to be more to life.
Right.
And yeah, it's a very important question to ask because it really places a person's sort of life, the course of their life, in the scope of like, why did the soul choose to live this life? What is it all about? So it gives you this like bird eye view of what it is that you're doing. Yeah. So medical issues, life purpose, but also people that have had sort of like experiences that are, sort of not explained. Like people might have had like contact with aliens, like they've been aboard spaceships, or they've had spiritual experiences, psychic experiences. People that feel like there's timeline shifts. I mean, there's all. I mean, the people that I meet, they really have like sort of crazy, wonderful experiences that do not fit what we've been told about. What a human experience is supposed to be about. So it's usually people that have had some kind of weird experience, or they they had like a crisis, and now their life is switched around, and they need some guidance.
Well, what inspired you to get into this?
What inspired me is I really never fit in anywhere. So I was always trying to fit in somewhere. I didn't understand how people do life, and so it wasn't until I was 8 years old and I picked up a book by the Monroe Institute about out of body experiences. That was the first marker for me that there was this sort of more magical, expansive life out there than I'd experienced up until now. And then, I kept looking for it. And then it wasn't until I found a book by Dolores Cannon in 2006 about contact with alien beings and other dimensions. And, I learned that this is the work that she does, QHHT. And so I didn't want to do anything but that. I just wanted to be exploring consciousness just like she did, because I felt like it was such an integral part of myself.
That's so wonderful. Did you get a chance to work with her directly?
Yeah, I was trained with her, trained by her. So yeah, when I met her, she wasn't known the way she is now. I mean, she's passed away since 2014. But when I met her, she wasn't that known. So the class that I joined, it was just like 12 of us from all over Europe. She was traveling and teaching. And yeah, for me, it was the first experience of being in a sort of school type setting or learning type setting that was actually enjoyable. I had
Right.
dropped out of high school. I had tried like doing other programs, but it never really interested me
Right.
until I did this. I mean, this is the first thing that I ever did where I was completely like inspired, and I couldn't wait to absorb more of her wisdom.
Oh, wow. That's so wonderful. Well, it's so interesting because I discovered Dolores Cannon about 2014 also, about that same time. And I watched all her videos I could. And one thing that always stuck out with me was how she was just so very matter of fact about it. And when she talked about the splitting of the two earths, you
Yeah.
know, and I thought, wow, we are really seeing that happen, where it's not necessarily the physical part of it, but just this separation so much. It seems like the divide's getting so big. And so it's just so fascinating. And then she talked about the three waves of people coming, and I mean, just all her different things she talked about. It's so fascinating to see how it it's in people, if that makes sense.
Of course, yes.
Anyway, so I find it very exciting. And I think it's so wonderful that you practice it for people who are curious to come to you. Has anyone ever come to you to try to prove you a fake?
No, I mean, I'm not really doing anything. So I'm
Good.
not doing a reading. I'm not like, like there's nothing to prove on my end. So I
Right.
mean, it's hypnosis. So um, yeah, I've never had that. The closest to that would be maybe like a mother that booked sessions for her children, and the children weren't that much into it. They were just doing it because mom wanted to do it.
Right.
And so they were just kind of sitting there like, well, show me what you got. But yeah, they weren't really into it. I mean, they went under hypnosis anyway, but yeah, that's the closest. But typically, I find people find me because they already know what the work is about and they really want to do it. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Have you ever had someone who was so resistant to going under?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What is that? What is that usually like?
Yeah. So it happens in about like, I would say maybe 7 out of 100 people. So it's not very often. But it can happen. I've noticed with people that are stuck in a pattern of overgiving, and they've done so their whole life. So if a person is not connected to themselves, but is more focused on placing others' needs above their own, then there isn't that familiarity with this inner part of themselves. They don't really know themselves, and then there is more time needed than is available in one session to make that connection. Sometimes some inner child work needs to be done, or some somatic works for a person to really kind of find the entrance back into their own sense of self.
Well,
And what they can look like is they're just laying on the table saying like, I don't see anything, and then all my prompts and my sort of going in through the back door, or tricks don't work, and yeah, then I just fill the time with like trying to get them to sort of surrender to their own process, and they might not see anything.
You know, I think is so interesting. When we come into this life, we forget everything we've experienced. Like there's that memory loss of past lives, which is wild and crazy, and I don't quite understand it. But why does our body hold on to those past experiences if the memories themselves are kind of like wiped out from us?
My understanding is that is because we need those experiences to work through our karma or to do our life's purpose in this lifetime. So it's like these parts make up like the architecture of our personality, and we've deliberate as a soul we have chosen to bring them in into this lifetime to be able to work through the challenges and the lessons that we chose to do in this lifetime. So, as an example, I remembered a lifetime where I was part of the Inquisition. I didn't know if it was France or Spain, but for the first part of that life, I was sort of merrily judging people to death because they were, not following the strict Catholic rules. And then in that lifetime, I realized what I was doing, that it was really very bad. And so I was in such shame that I ostracized myself from the community, and I died in squalor in some shack in the woods. And the judgment that I placed over myself was that I was unforgivable.
Mm.
And I had brought that judgment into this lifetime, deliberately so, from the perspective of my soul. Because in this lifetime, part of my path is to not only um, like fix the separation between me and source, but as I learn to do that, to help others do the same thing. So for me to come to the realization that I am part of source or the universe or God or goddess, whatever word fits your belief system, and then having walked that path for myself, to be able to help other people do the same thing. So it's not like, well, whoops, the system is broken or it's flawed that you bring these things into this lifetime. It is opted into, and if you encounter these bits and pieces in this lifetime, it's there to be healed or to be used for your path right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. How did it make you feel when you realized what that past life was? And you brought that with you into this perfect. So when you sometimes when you hear news for the first time and that you have that realization, sometimes your body kind of has a certain reaction to it, where you have like an emotional response to it.
Yes, it can. And so most people on the first go are not shown lifetimes where they were, yeah, perpetrators, in one way or another.
Right.
So I had already like done so much work in consciousness that I knew that these lives were there. So when I saw the life, I didn't really see, the play by play, like the damage that I was doing. I just saw myself like in sort of like a judge's court, or like it was outside, and I knew there were people, in like rags and like horribly treated, but it wasn't like I saw everything that happened. So I was spared from seeing all the like the brutality of it, but I knew exactly what was going on and what I was doing. Yeah, but I didn't feel bad about myself. Even though it felt like it was my soul, I knew that it was a different lifetime. It wasn't happening right now, nor was it reflective of who I am as a person right now.
So, have there ever been cases where someone feels too traumatized by learning what their past life experience was? Whether it was them killing someone or being abused or something along those lines?
That's such a great question. So this process is guided by a person's higher self. So it's the part of us that knows it is part of source or the universe. And so this is pure unconditional love, and it's very, very wise. And during a session, it's there to love on somebody. It's not there to like punish them or traumatize them or rub their face in it. So I've not experienced that. So I've had people go back to places in this current lifetime where there was abuse happening, and everybody's shown this if they go there in a very different way. Like one person I remember, she really saw the play by play, like every moment and what was happening. And I was checking with her, like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And she says, "Yes, I want to watch this. I want to see what really happened," because she had no memory of it. And then another person going through a similar experience, she was just shown like the house where it happened and then the perpetrator's face. And that was all she needed to validate it for herself. So the higher self is really loving and caring, that it will not force like experiences onto a people, onto a person that they're not ready to deal with.
So, why do you think we have all these different types of experiences? You know, some that can be so violent or cruel or just like so vast on this polarity spectrum. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's such a kind of difficult subject because, as human beings, of course, we experience those horrors and they're horrible, and we would never opt into them from our human experience. But when I talk to a person's soul, their higher self, they always say, through different clients, we chose this, meaning from the soul's perspective, we came here to learn expansion or self-love or other things through not only through the joys of life, but through the contrast that the earth experience provides. This is a contrast that apparently is not available in other places of the universe that vibrate at a higher plane. So actually, the earth experience is quite coveted to be able to come here and have this sort of fast track learning in the illusion of separation from source, where these experiences can be had. They cannot be had in other places. I mean, if you think about your own history, the things that happened in your life that were really traumatic and difficult, I have my own experiences. And at the time, I was like, "What the fuck is happening? Why me? And this is horrible, and all that stuff." But when I look back at them now, they've really, I mean, for me, my experiences have brought me back to myself. They first shattered me in a thousand pieces, but when I came back together, I was more solid, and there was more of my light present than before. And
So,
that, yeah,
oh, go ahead. Would you say these experiences help span the collective consciousness or just the consciousness of our own soul?
yeah, this is a great question. So, yeah, what I've learned through this process is that that we influence the harmonics of human consciousness on the planet by healing issues within ourselves that sort of resonate within the collective. So, for myself, issues of like being judged or feeling judged, being gay or genderqueer, or being a woman or a person that doesn't fit whatever dominant standards are, operant in a society or a culture. When we learn to embrace those parts of ourselves, to love these parts of ourselves, we do. It kind of goes out into the harmonics of human consciousness, and it gets lighter. And you can see this also in, like you mentioned, the three waves of volunteers, and this refers to the different sort of types of souls that have been coming onto the planet since 1945, when the atomic bomb was detonated. This is still continuing, and these waves are lighter and lighter, meaning more of the soul's energy is able to be housed in the body. When the people came first, when these sort of the first wave came in the 40s, it was still a very dense place to be. Then the second wave is my generation. I'm from 1971, so around that time. A little bit lighter because the ones that came before us did some fixing of this grid system, these harmonics. And now, because of the work that we've been doing, ever lighter souls are coming in, meaning more of the soul's energy can be held within the body. So these are the crystal children, the indigos, and there's like other generations that are supposed to come in right now as well. So
What I think is interesting about that, we are having more and more children born with neurological disorders like autism. There's like so many kids being born on autism. Is that part of the third wave, or is that something completely separate?
no, these are people that are the bringers of new consciousness. They, I mean, it's a generalization, but
course.
in general, they have a different way of being in the body. They are more connected to other dimensions than they are connected to the physical body. And so it looks like, to us, it looks like, um, there's this sensitivity to sound or to noise or to emotions. They're just very sensitive people because they don't inhabit the body the same way that, like, what's the word, like neurotypical people do.
Right.
Um, but they are bringers of a new wave of consciousness. I mean, if you've listened to the telepathy tapes, are you familiar with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it was such a beautiful piece of work. These
Right.
tapes explaining all of this. So yeah, these are really a new generation of people that are here to anchor a higher, more connected vibration of consciousness onto the planet. It's not a flaw, or there's nothing wrong with these people.
It's, well,
Um,
I like to
this
think
is
it's more
what?
heart based. I like to think of it as more connected to heart than to
Yes,
brain, which
yes,
I think is wonderful. But it seems like right now we are in this crazy spiritual war, where it just seems like there's so many elements coming at humanity in all these different directions. And it seems like people are being challenged to figure out who they really are.
definitely.
And I think people are having a hard time with that. So would you say something like QHHT could help them really figure out who they are?
Yes, because of course, as human beings, and I just want to acknowledge Ronnie saying having autism and ADD and ADHD. Yes, I have some ADHD as well, and to be neurodivergent, I mean, what I've been told is like all these people are definitely light workers here on the planet. So, um,
Well,
but yeah,
Ronnie, thanks so much for joining, Ronnie. He's awesome.
yes. So, yeah, it can help people with that because curiosity helps a person to reconnect with their soul. This is what we do in this process. It's really kind of bathing in the frequency of a person's soul. We call it the higher self for what, at least 2 hours. So, coming out of it with the understandings that have happened, the awarenesses that have come up, a person leaves my office now more sort of rooted or more connected to their inner self or their soul versus being more dependent on external circumstances. So, and then having also gained the understanding that the soul, or that we are always in the right place at the right time for our soul to learn and to expand to things that it came to experience. So it's always the right time and the right place, no matter what's happening. But there's also this sense of knowing that we are eternal. So we're not the body. I mean, we are the body right now. We're extended into the body, but who we truly are is eternal. And so that life continues after death, and there's can be other adventures to be had. So it helps people. I mean, this is what it's done for me over time. That I'm now more identified, as an eternal being rather than like thinking that I'm just a body. I know that we're all eternal beings, but it's kind of like we're here temporarily to have this experience, and then we go on to other places and have other experiences.
So,
So
okay, so the whole universe, this whole realm is so vast. Does our soul come back here right away, or does it go someplace else? Or how do you think, or have you been taught that what's the next step after this life now?
I love your questions.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, so yeah, there is a realm we kind of refer to as the in-between or the afterlife place where we go right away after we pass away. And it kind of looks, there's different experiences that people have when they talk to me about it. If a lifetime has been particularly hard, it seems like the souls first go to a place of quiet. So this can be in outer space, like they're just drifting and floating through the galaxy, or it can be this void space or this nothingness that is sort of velvety, where they feel very secure and held and nurtured. And both of these places are for a soul to kind of recombobulate and shed the emotional layers and the trauma from the life they just came out of. And then there is going into the light or source, where there might be guides and angels welcoming them, or loved ones from their current lifetime or different lifetimes, Then there can also be like star family waiting, so beings from other galaxies and planets.
That would
And then
be
you can also choose to go to school. Like there's classes learning about like somebody teaching about compassion, or like how to be in a cat's body, or I don't know, like all kinds of different subjects that you can choose to learn as well before you go back in. And then, you can choose to go into an Earth lifetime, or you can go to different places, like a different planet or a different dimensional experience, different galaxy, totally different natural laws, different experience of being in a body, totally different bodies. I mean, you can't imagine like all the different options that are possible.
that is so fascinating. Now, I remember Dolores Cannon was talking about there really is no time.
Yeah.
It's like everything exists simultaneously. Mind blown. What a concept to try to wrap your head around. And of course, it's like, but it's just so wild when you think of all the possibilities. So that would mean we are actually existing in multiple dimensions right
Yeah.
now. And she also talked about how a new dimension is created with every decision you make or not make.
Yes.
How did she come up with this? How did that come about? Because again, mind blowing.
Yes. Yeah, when you read her books, you can usually in the foreword, or the first part of the book, she talks about how doing this work over time really like stretched her mind. That just when she thought she's got it all figured out, then she was confronted with this other concept that would expand her mind again. So yeah, this is like you can call it parallel lives or different timelines. Yeah, this is a thing, and how she find out about it is like how we find out about this stuff is talking to a person's higher self. It often breaches into these sort of universal law or yeah concepts that we might not have known about.
So when I hear that people say timelines have collapsed, what exactly does that mean?
I haven't encountered that a lot, but I remember one session that timelines have collapsed. Like it's talking about the timeline of Earth, I think, that there were many options before, and now because of the choices that were made, or the place that we're headed for, there's only a few. I was told there were a few left, and this was like 2 years ago. Um, and but that we are always on the highest timeline, so that we don't have to fear that we are like running on a set bar timeline or something. It's just like where our
Right.
collective, what our collective chooses to experience is always the best, because we're going to get the experiences that we want out of it.
Now, see, that's a crazy concept too, because we're an individual, but we're part of this collective. And so it's like we're one with the whole. So kind of like where the whole goes, we go. So, but
Yeah.
we're all in different levels within this whole. Again,
Yes.
it's it's
I'm
crazy.
still I'm still trying to figure that one out too. Like I think you know from the human perspective, our poor mind, I don't think it has the capacity to hold this really sort of otherworldly these otherworldly laws, in the sort of the square form of our mind. It's
Right.
like too geared towards trying to analyze and fit it into neat boxes. I just don't think it works that way. So
I
it
agree.
sounds kind of chaotic when I think about it. Like, how would that all work? It feels like all these different timelines, like
Right.
merging or weaving in and out. I would love to know how that works, but yeah, I haven't figured it out for myself.
Not yet. Not
No,
yet.
not yet.
So one thing I do, I'm a screenwriter and I write. And like I was telling you earlier, when I had my session with you, one of the stories I had, and I call them stories because experiences are all stories. I literally wrote it into a story and I'm turning that into a novel. But then I also write a lot of horror movies or horror scripts, and it gets really dark. And I was wondering, when our souls move on and they're the souls that get trapped, is there really this darkness that a soul is trapped in? Or is it just another experience that they will, or that soul will eventually move through?
there's movement in my understanding of that as well. I thought, souls. Yeah, I think sometimes souls get trapped. I've experienced this myself. That some soul was like latched onto my energy.
Right.
Um, that was just like sort of earthbound. But I also think that certain acts or deeds or experiences, they carry such dense energy or such like intense energy that I think as a thought form, that energy might just kind of experience as sort of a loop, like where the energy itself becomes sort of sentient and experience like the same loop of what the deed was. So those are the two options that I've uh, um, run into. Um, so yeah, but I mean, in the end, it's not the whole soul of a person, or it's not the whole soul that gets trapped. It's just a part of it, and it's not forever, because everybody has guides and angels, and at some point, they will be open to getting help and to go into the light. Like the souls that are trapped, it seems like they're still very connected to earthly experiences. I remember, like one of the experiences I had sort of taken on, or something had globbed onto me, and when we figured out what it was like a man in his 40s who was very frantic, who felt like he needed to do something. He had died and didn't know that was dead, and so we helped him move into the light. Um, so there was this attachment to like finishing something up that wasn't finished. Um,
And
so
did that spirit realize that, or he did not realize that, and that's how come you had to help him move on?
when we once we worked with it, we helped it move into the light. We kind of said stuff like, what you need is what you're looking for. You'll find in that light. It's the light where you're supposed to go. And finally, it did, and I felt it sort of like funnel out of me, and then I was, where I was going to go, the next adventure.
That's so cool. All right, so when you see a lot of homeless people on the streets, and you could tell they're off, when they're like talking to themselves, or it looks like they're actually talking to someone else, but no one is really there. Do they have entities attached to them typically?
Well, I don't know, because it's not like I can diagnose that. I think there's probably a variety of experiences going on. It could be entities, it could be just being tapped into different dimensional experiences. Those are the two options that I'm thinking of right now. I mean, the human experience here. I mean, what I've learned through doing this work, it's so much more varied than what we thought it was. I mean, there's people here now that have like abilities that that we see in movies, but we didn't know, like people that can levitate or that know telekinesis. So there's such a variety of different experiences to be had, and having sort of that door open to other dimensions, like involuntarily or voluntarily, or talking to entities. I mean,
So
yeah,
much.
there's all kinds of crazy experiences possible. Yeah.
Right. And that's what's so exciting. I mean, if you think about it, and personally, I think we all have the ability to use telepathy and telekinesis. I think we just we're never taught it. So I really believe we all have that ability.
Yes.
Of course, I'm told,
That,
oh, that's not here, but I think,
that's
right,
that's
there's
what.
so
Yeah, that
many,
is.
right?
It's sort of innate to us as human beings. It's not like, oh, now I know that and now I can do it. I mean, because we are part of the belief structures around us that have been shaped and formed by the ones that have gone before us, and so it can be really hard to lift out of that. But some people come in and they're just able to do it. They are able to like break through that sort of dense belief system and do these things.
Well, we're all at different levels, that's for sure, and that's part of the exciting aspect of being here. That we have all these different levels to learn from each other. Now,
Yes.
I've heard when you are out in nature, sunlight, smelling flowers, being around trees, that helps amplify your spirit. Would you agree with that?
So much. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
isn't it interesting that society wants to clump us all together and keep us inside? How can people realize that they have to get outside and be under the sun and enjoy nature? Is that
Yeah, I think we've just forgotten that we are part of the natural world, and our development and evolution as a species has gone into such like dominating our external environment and trying to understand it and dissect it and exploit it, and I think we've lost contact with the natural world, and includes the natural world of who we truly are. So, what my experience is when I go into nature is that I'm around other beings that just show up just the way they are. Trees, plants, rocks, animals. They don't they don't require me to be anything but what I already am, because they show up just the way they are. And so I find it a very conducive, space or energy for me, and just like really feel like myself. And feeling like myself, with that are the more sort of subtle layers that are not reflected back to us in a urban society as it is now, often. So it's a very specific sort of bandwidth of experience that we see and that we get reflected back to us. But then when we go to nature, it's all there, including the non-physical dimensions. Does that make sense?
it does. That's very now another thing I want to bring up. I know for quite a long time I've been hearing this 25,000 year cycle. Every 25,000 years there's like a reset, if you will. And I put in quotes because reset could mean a lot of different things. Do you feel like we are coming to a new beginning of life with the soul?
Are you talking about like the progression of the equinoxes? Is that
Well, so I've been hearing. Well, it seems like for quite a few years now, and I think Dolores Cannon talked about when she talked about the separating of Earth, like the two Earths. But there's like this 25,000 year cycle, from what I understand, that happens in the. And I'm sorry, moving my arms around out there, with the constellations, the stars, the planets. I don't know, everything's like moving, and there's like a cycle that ends and a new one that begins.
yes?
So yeah, I'm curious because one, there's no time. So how do you really calculate 25,000 years, especially with the planets? But then what is this ending that's been talked about for so long that's supposed to bring about this new beginning? Is it a golden age? Is it something where, is it part of the splitting of the two earths? Is it a higher ascension of the spirit, as a whole? Or is it for yourself? You know,
Yeah,
there's so
thank you.
much.
This is so great. I've been trying to connect the dots too because I've been aware of those cycles. They're called the yugas. There's a name for it, and we're just coming out of the most dense part of the cycle, and it does coincide with astronomical movement of our solar system through the galaxy. Apparently, we are in orbit, or like in a dual orbit around Halcyon, I think it is. It's another sun. And so whenever we get close to this other solar system, and this is a cycle of 25,000 years, our evolution speeds up. We regain access to the higher mental and spiritual abilities. We're just coming out of the most dense part of the cycle, where we're the furthest out. And so, excuse me. And so, in our evolution, apparently there have been different resets of humanity, where a certain iteration of us didn't work out, and then there was sort of like wipe the slate clean kind of thing happening. But now, for the first time, and again, time and there being no time, don't ask me to make that make sense. But
Right.
for the first time, there is now a larger part of humanity able to hold this higher dimensional vibration in the body, to where things are changing. And so there is this shift that's now happening, that is prompted by the Earth development as well. She is now ready to move into a higher frequency of higher vibratory plane of existence. And for the first time, many souls that are here on the planet now in human bodies are able to make that shift with her, which is not what happened over the past few resets.
So this is kind of exciting because we have so many different energies coming from all different directions, and then the planet, she has, hurricanes and earthquakes and tsunamis and all these, I don't know, I want to say her opinions, I guess. It's like, what are you guys doing? It's like, just be love. So if we as a human collective just felt that space of love, could we help that ascension? Or is there always going to be this polarity of this push and pull?
Do you mean the Earth ascension, if we could help it?
Yeah.
Well, Earth is fine. She's fine without us. So she's already ascending. It's more about us trying to catch up. And what I've heard is that lots of sort of alien species now that are involved or invested in the evolution of humans on the planet, they're able to sort of counterbalance the ascension consequences that the Earth is going through in order for us to have a viable environment here so we can have our own evolution, but we're kind of catching up to her ascension. And then, I mean, the way to be in love, or the way to do that, what I've been hearing through the higher self and what my own experience is that this is primarily done through loving oneself. And this sounds really selfish, at first.
Yeah, true.
But
Right.
why this is so important is because we've been in a culture and a society for millennia where the messaging has been that we're not good enough and that our life is just about survival, and it's created this disconnect between ourselves and within ourselves. We are not aligned with our soul's experience. We become this sort of defense mechanism that learns to survive out into the world, and we've been completely disconnected. And our society is built on that. And so now what's happening with the awakening that's going on is that we are supposed to first love ourselves, because as we are loving ourselves and recovering the parts of us that we've had to shun or demonize or closet because of society not being receptive, or our parents or our peers or our culture or religion, when we learn to recover those parts, we purge the judgment that we've internalized towards these parts of ourselves. And as we regain or recover more of our own light, we get to know ourselves as source, as the divine, because that's what we all are. And through knowing that within yourself, I mean, this is just, you'll know that this is the same for anything else outside of us, meaning other people, the animals, the planet, the environment, everything around us is of the same thing. So just as you have learned to stop harming yourself with these judgments and compartmentalizing part of yourself, sort of this inner violence that we've been perpetuating against ourselves for so long, we will want to stop perpetuating that against others and the planet. So the more people that are waking up, or the more people that are recovering more of themselves and loving themselves and not wanting to perpetuate the harm committed to themselves or others, the more that will result in us as a species finding solutions to live on this planet as stewards of it, where violence and exploitation and the othering of other beings or even animals and plants is no longer acceptable, because it's just no longer within our vibration to do so anymore. And so the 5D, or the new Earth, I've heard two things about it: that there is an actual other planet being prepared for people that are moving into this higher vibratory plane of existence, but also that we are creating 5D on planet Earth by loving ourselves and dropping back out of the mind, back into the heart and the body, and learning to love ourselves first, and then kind of creating this new grid of connected souls that are, I mean, it's like we're creating a whole new reality on Earth that is based on love and compassion and kindness and connection.
That sounds so beautiful. It really does. But then I think about how bipolar the planet is, people wise. You know, you have children being born into cultures where they're told they'll never be good enough. They have to be covered from head to toe, even as young children. You know, or they're married off as a 6-year-old to a man who's 60. You know, so they're they're they will never know what a childhood is. You know, and okay, so that soul has chosen that life, but it's still contributing to a collective energy that's not of love, is it? You know, it seems like it would be more of a chaotic energy. How does that fit in the system of this ascension?
Yeah, I mean it's so hard to look at that. I mean, these horrible things have been with our development for so long,
Right.
and so especially now with how connected we are, these things become more apparent because we have our screens that we constantly look at and we see everything that's happening, or a segment of it, but more so than in the past. So that has been going on, but I was just in a session, not recently. I mean, I think it was recent, and I was talking to a person's higher self, and it was the same question, like, how the fuck do I deal with all this shit that's all around us all the time? And it said, yes, the darkness has grown stronger because the vibration is being amped up. So all this is becoming more sort of out in the open to be released.
Hmm.
And but it said there's always a balance. So when you see the darkness getting stronger, the light's also getting stronger. And it told my client for her to be discerning with what is in her gallery, like what she focuses on. So, because it was in her best interest to keep her own vibration high, so she could sort of minister to others to to help pull them up as well. So I think it's just stuff that has been going on for so long as part of the fabric of humanity, and but that now there is a new. It's slowly changing by adding more light to this soup that has been so dark for so long.
Right. Well, I guess when secrets are no longer secret and people it comes to the light, it does transmute, right? It does shift and change. And you know, everyone is on a different soul cycle. I've what do you think of what exactly is soul retrieval? That's a term I've heard quite a bit. What is what is that
Um,
exactly?
I mean, for the way that I use the word, I'm not sure it's the same as it's used in shamanism. And I don't know what it exactly is in shamanism, but when I talk about it, it is, it's not, when I talk about it, it's like not a part of our soul, of my soul that has been held somewhere or captive or whatever. It's just a part of me that I have not been able to acknowledge yet or
Mm.
to embrace. So I mean, you might have noticed this yourself in your own healing journey. I see it in my when I work with my clients. It's like when they go into a past life where maybe they were like a tribal elder or a wise person or a healer, and they were very revered and respected in their role. And in the current lifetime, they might be very insecure about stepping into this role as a healer that they want to, the way they want to be on the planet right now. Um, and so to connect with that part of their soul that has that experience of being revered and respected and being very confident in what they're doing, this helps a person now to have more confidence. And so it is accessing that part of themselves that was in their soul all along or in their being all along, but now to kind of like, it's like almost like your soul is like this big mansion of like different rooms. And, as a human being, you've access to like just the inner part of it. But as you're doing soul retrieval, it's like you're opening other doors and you're turning the light on and you go like, oh my God, I didn't know this room was here. And so you kind of like get bigger and bigger in your own, reclaiming your own sense of self. That's kind of an okay um,
That's awesome. But
metaphor.
isn't that the goal of consciousness to constantly expand?
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like really there is never an ending, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like if you go way out, like way out of woo-woo, then I mean, it seems like there is this. I think Hinduism talks about this. It's like Brahma's breath, like this in and out breath movement of the galaxy, like from the Big Bang to going completely out and then coming back together, and then doing that again, like over and over and over. So, I mean, my mind just like starts screaming at me when I try to like think about it. But yeah,
It's
so
it's like whoa. But so I think the hardest thing to do in this life, for me anyway, is just really know and accept who I am. That's been my journey. And I know when I went to you, which was before COVID, so it's been quite some time, but it's still so vivid in my mind. I remember I cried a lot, and I remember seeing so many different journeys that reflected my life now. Even though it was completely separate, there were parallels, and it took me a long time to really process everything because it was so much. And I remember there was one scenario, if you will, I was in, that I was just crying. Something you like gently redirected me to something else, because I mean I was like kind of in a way reliving that. And I like to think of myself as empathic, where I'm like really sensitive stuff, which I think helps make me a really good writer. But it was so fascinating. So even after all this time, it's like it just happened. And I think people should have that experience because it really helps you tap into who you are right now. And so I think that's what's being called for right now. It's like, okay, who are you? Love yourself more than ever right now, because you need to love yourself.
yeah.
And not in that narcissistic way, but in that, I am, I've been abused, I've been through all the shit, and that's okay because I am who I am, and I'm wiser for it, and I'm contributing to the collective with love because of it.
Nice.
And so it's like, so I want people to know about this so they can say, okay, I have issues with X, Y, and Z. I need to get my shit together. So where do I start? And I think the service you provide is a great start. So if someone wants to go out to find you, how would they go about finding you?
Oh, thank you. So yeah, I do my one-on-one sessions in person in Los Angeles. So I'm in the Valley and Valley Village to be precise. And so you can find me to my website. It's my first name, JeroenQHHT.com. It's JeroenQHHT.com. My TikTok profile will probably have links directing you to places where you can find all the necessary places. So I want to offer anybody who's listening here. I am doing a group past life expression experience. It's a virtual experience on Saturday, October 11th at 6:30. It takes about 75 minutes. So normally people pay like $60 for it, but I want to offer it reduced for $10. So if you can DM me if you're interested to join this group, to have your own past life experience, I would love to see what kind of experiences that you'll have, that you'll stumble into. But yeah, or you can find me on Instagram. It's Jeroen, Jeroen is love. My information, Jeroen is love on Instagram. You can find me there too.
So I thought you weren't. How does it work if it's online?
So it's not like a one-on-one, 4 hour long QHT session. It's sort of a sample experience. And I give prompts for people to have their own experience. So it's not like I'm telling you what kind of life the whole group is going to go into. I just help people be relaxed and kind of open their mind to this inner information. And then I lead people through one or more different lifetimes by just giving prompts and then some quiet time for everybody to experience whatever scene they find themselves in.
Oh, wow, that sounds good. Now, one-on-one, you record the session too for them, right? Because I remember,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks for mentioning. Yes, so people will come in. because people are in such a different state that most of the time they remember when they come out of it, but the details really fade very quick. So it's really healing to be able to listen to it later and to hear yourself say these like wise things or very specific experiences. Like some of the people think they make it up, or but when they hear themselves talk about it, it's so specific. And actually, we haven't mentioned this at all, but I've had people go into lifetimes that we've been able to find, like historical lifetimes
Yeah.
that they didn't know
So
about.
can you share a story about that?
Yeah, so the biggest sort of case that I've been part of was a woman who came into my office with the story that her then very young son started talking to her, saying stuff like, I used to be a tall German baseball player. And the woman herself, being from a Christian background, she had no like context for reincarnation. So initially, she just thought this kid is imagining things. But then she would take him around Los Angeles. She was from McGuire Hills to the Dodger Stadium because he expressed an interest in baseball, and he would point at like this big poster of Babe Ruth, this legendary American baseball player, and he would share like personal details about his relationship with this guy. He said this was a mean guy. We had a big fight. It was very very bad, and he would comment on his environment from the perspective of somebody who lived in like the 1930s or 40s of the last century. So after you know her getting freaked out about this, she finally one of her more like woo friends had already done a session with me, so she came into my office with this story, and her son had also told her that she used to be his mom in that past life too, but that he'd like to know better. And so I told her like this is a great story, but I don't know where this is going to go. I leave it up to your higher self to show whatever lifetime is most appropriate for you. But we ended up having 3 sessions where we explored the lifetime of Christina Garrick, Lou Gehrig's mom, and I did not direct her into that lifetime, but session after session, she would just go back into it and we would explore different periods of it. And she had very detailed recall, like I could ask her about anything. And this was kind of at the start of my career where I was still very skeptical towards people like making stuff up. And so I asked sort of lots of like stuff about the environment that she was in that she couldn't have researched prior to coming in, like very random little stuff. Like one of her scenes was she was walking to the Yankee Stadium to watch her son Lou Gehrig play for the first time for the Yankees. So I had to describe what the lawn looked like, what kind of cars, what she was wearing, and then I was thinking, she's gonna go to a game, like she's gonna have some snacks. What kind of snacks are you having? And she said, "We're having like warm nuts." She goes, and I go, "Like, is it like burnt peanuts?" And she goes, "No, I think it's chestnuts." And her being from Southern California, she had never even seen a chestnut. But yeah, she thought that's what it was. And then when I asked her, like, "Are you drinking anything?" She goes, "Yes, we're having a cola." Like, what American-born person would refer to a Coke as a cola? So she was kind of using the jargon of that time, and maybe since in that lifetime she was German, she was born in Germany, maybe like a different a different access to American vocabulary as well. So she was able to verify all her experiences with still living descendants and relatives of the Gehrig family, and wrote a book about it. And it was published by Hay House. It's called The Boy Who Knew Too Much. Grab it. Yeah. This book,
Right.
Happy Bird wrote it.
Aren't they turning that into a movie?
Yes. So Halle Berry's production company is now developing it. Yes.
Wow, that's exciting. That's
Hopefully it's good.
yeah. So when she was doing, the mom was doing it. What was the reason? When her higher self was showing her that past life, what was she supposed to get out of it? What was her lesson to be learned from it?
Yes. So it was so interesting because I asked it, like, why are we doing this? Why this lifetime of Christina Garrick in such detail? And so, excuse me, it said that she was to sort of excavate this lifetime, this regression experience with details that she couldn't have known about, and to verify those details with living descendants and relatives, and then to write a book about it. That the book, because it contained both the subject of baseball, but also this level of sort of verifiability, it would be accessible to a larger, like, cohort or population of people that normally wouldn't be interested in learning about reincarnation because it's not in their mind, but that this book would help more people give access to the concept of that our souls being eternal. So it was meant, to kind of heal or to help people to expand their minds.
Right. And I love that's in such an entertaining way too, because who doesn't love baseball? So
Right. And it's also about your own profession. Like I hear this over and over that people that are the creatives, the writers, the storytellers, the creatives, that this is what they're here to do. This is what you're here to do, to expand consciousness through the stories that you tell. Because entertainment is like, sort of the back door into people like expanding their mind through a positive, wonderful experience.
yeah, it's so interesting that you say that because right now, more than ever, horror films are everywhere. Now, what's crazy is when I write, it's like I feel like I tune in with spirit and I become like this channel. And it's really easy for me to write scary stuff, which I almost like, what the heck? But then when it comes to watching it, I can't watch it. It's like something about the visual stuff. I mean, I can write it, but I refuse to see it because it's like I am the tool, right? So, but it's almost like everything's in the universe that's just kind of like channeling through me. And I think that happens to artists, whether you're a dancer or a painter or whatever creative art or even like what you do, you just become like this vessel where spirit kind of works through you. At least that's been my experience anyway. And so, but it just seems like right now there's horror everywhere. Like, I just started watching Monster on Netflix, the story about Ed Gein, a Ryan Murphy series. And it's terrifying because this guy was just like so sweet. So he appeared so calm, but yet he had all this trauma and a mother who was just batshit crazy. And he did things that were not acceptable, but in his mind he was fine, and it's just so crazy how when we're not connected with ourselves, we do batshit crazy stuff, So when you can really just come in and ground, I find the horror stuff fascinating because what are we tuning into that is coming down so hard and so fast?
That's interesting. I'm going to ask some people's higher selves about it when they're in session. I want to know about that. I wonder
Yeah.
about it too. Yeah.
It feels like, personally, I think we're in some sort of spiritual war, this conflict of, maybe fighting over Loosh or fighting over independent freedom. It's like, is it this back and forth, like who's trying to hold on to what, when the ultimate goal is something we're all going to reach eventually, right? So it's so fascinating to see this wave of energy, so it's fascinating, and try not to judge it, but be aware of it.
I mean, I know from other experiences that one of the reasons that stuff is shown is because it does show like the paranormal, other levels of existence for people to sort of accept that there are other levels of existence. But I'm sure that's not the only reason. But I'm curious as well. I'm going to ask some people's higher selves about it. Like, why this is such a thing right now.
Right? It's
Yeah.
just, especially since we're rising, since we're ascending, why is there all this dark stuff? It just, same thing like with killings and it just makes me wonder, what are we showing our children, to think is okay, as opposed to being open to seeing things, on a broader scope, like boundaries or I don't know. I don't want to be judgmental in any sense of the word because, it's like when you're just, it just seems like so many changes are happening. And I think it goes back to how do you really get to know yourself, especially when you've had trauma in the past or you've never been listened to or you feel like you don't have a voice, and that's another thing, having had that experience with you, was it, I think 6 years ago now? It's been a long time, but it's still so fresh with me. I really felt like I helped open my voice, which ultimately helped me become, become a better writer.
Wow.
Just, that throat chakra just really cleared open, which of course it was, the whole heart aspect really opening up to say, okay, how can I work with spirit to write the stories that need to be told? So it's just so fascinating, and I would love to do it again with you. And I remember when I saw you, I cried a lot. I remember my body was shaking, and I was just like, I was freezing cold, and I was like, okay, what just happened? And I was having all these experiences where I felt like I was getting all these downloads too, which was super exciting. And I feel because of that, I've grown so much and done so much inner work. I'm ready to go to that next level now. And I think seeing you again okay, it's like, okay, higher self, what's next? Help, how do I get to that next step so I can still be of service, whether it's as a writer or something else, but really stay grounded in who I am.
I would love to work with you again. That'd be so fun.
Right? What I mean, and you're so much fun. I mean, you're just so great. I remember it, and we did go longer than 4 hours. I remember that too. I think we went to almost 7 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but
Yes.
it didn't feel like it. It just went by
Right.
so fast because there were just like all these different stories that were happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, why am I, but now I see why, and it's been so fascinating to be able to write about it into a fictional story where it's kind of still showing the lessons learned and the adventure and the growth, and so that particular story I'm calling it the Amulet Secret. So if you
Oh
ever see
wow.
that, so and I have dragons in it too.
Oh
So
nice. Yes.
I'm
Did
very excited about it.
did you experience dragons in your session with me? Because they've been coming up a
Yes,
lot.
yes, we
Yes.
did, and we even talked about that too. So that was really exciting, and there are just so many things happening right now. So in a way, it's such an exciting time because of all these new, I want to say awareness, so much new awareness for so many people. It's like they're seeing colors for the first time, and so that could be why there is so much more darkness coming in. I don't know. But again, more than anything, know who you are. And I think you can really help people figure that out just by being that gentle hand.
Thank you.
So I think that's wonderful. So I want people to go see you, and that just the fact you've worked with so many other people, over 3,000, you've said, that's mind-boggling. Just
Yeah.
and you're so gentle in holding space, which is
Thank you.
so
Oh,
important.
thank you so much.
Anyway, so
I love doing this stuff. Yeah.
I don't know how you do it. I would be like, oh my god. Yeah. Have what has been like the most outrageous experience you've had that you can share?
Wow. Outrageous in what way?
Whatever you think would be outrageous.
Ah, I mean, I always love when people, when they're like in a different, like in an ET body and they're on the spaceship, and there might be someone else on the spaceship with them, and then I start asking that other person questions, and then within short, they're channeling this other alien being, and then when people's voices change, sounding like robotic or like very high, or they make the sounds like the way that other beings talk, like clicking sounds, or start speaking light language, or also like when it's historical lifetimes and you can find them, we can Google them. That's also super fun. Um, or sometimes, I mean, this doesn't happen all the time. This happens maybe twice. There's such a physical purge happening that somebody runs off the table and like pukes outside of my office. That's
Wow.
happened as well. Yes. So that's kind of outrageous. I mean, that's not, a normal session. Um,
Okay, I have to ask, what about artificial intelligence? I've heard there's actually a being extra. I don't want to say extraterrestrial. This whole consciousness of AI that's kind of coming down now. Can we talk about that?
I wish I could. I've only had it come up in one session, and I haven't gotten enough like different viewpoints from the higher self of it to say something that is sort of helpful. I don't remember what that was. I don't have a formed opinion about it yet.
Okay, because I think it's fascinating just the way AI is taking over so fast.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of like, it's almost like an entity upon itself.
I never thought about that. That's such a good point.
It's like, kind of makes you wonder, because it literally came, within the last 10 years?
Yeah.
And so it's just
Yeah, it's taken over, and maybe like the last 2 or 3 years where everybody, is
Right.
using it.
And we're using it so easily. Well,
Yeah.
I think you are a wonderful person. I think what you're doing for humanity is absolutely amazing. Just you're being of service in the kindest, most amazing way. And I appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you so much. I thank you for having me on here and like all those kind words. I mean,
So this was a first for both of us. This TikTok live is kind of cool. Would you be open to doing it again
oh
sometime?
yeah, I love talking about this stuff. So give me a platform and I'll start yapping. So
So, I think your offer to the people watching, and I'm going to post this recording too. On
fine, yes.
So
I'll post it to my socials as well.
So whoever listens to this can participate in a group past life session on October 11th,
Yes.
right? Saturday,
Yeah.
at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, correct?
Yes. So to get the link, DM me please. Send me a
Okay.
DM.
And for $10?
$10. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great opportunity just to test it out. And if they want to book a one-on-one session with you, can that be online also, or does it have to be in person?
No, QHT is only done in person.
Okay.
Yes. So, yeah, Ronnie's saying, is it like therapy? Yes, but it's not like traditional talk therapy. It's really connecting to your inner self through hypnosis. So it doesn't feel like it's more like an allowing than it is work. So, yeah.
That sounds awesome. Well, I think everyone should experience it at least once.
I think so too. Yeah, I've had like 14 sessions myself.
Oh, really? How often do you do it?
Whenever it kind of like pops in, like there's a practitioner around, or I meet someone at like Conscious Life Expo, like from another town, and they're a practitioner, and then we do sessions. Or it's working with my colleague Sarah Braskman. She has written many books about her experiences, and she's on Gaia and stuff. And so I was part of, I was like her subject. She was hypnotizing me, and this amazing session came out. That was the most recent one that I did.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's very cool. Well, it's like giving yourself an upgrade, I guess, right? The more in tune you are.
Yes, every time you do this, you gain more awareness and more of yourself back. It's very positive.
Well, I think with so much happening energetically, I think it's definitely a good idea to have done. Something's happening. I think many things are happening. So the more prepared we are, the better, I think. But it's exciting. Well, okay. I always want to call you Jeroen. I know. Jeroen.
Yes.
Jeroen.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Anyway, but thank you so very much. I think you're wonderful. And and your website again, JEROEN.
OENQHHT.com.
Okay. Definitely people check his website out. It's wonderful. Schedule an appointment with him if you're in Los Angeles. And if you're not in Los Angeles and you want a session, can someone reach out to you and you can help direct them to someone in your area or in their area?
Yeah, I'm dropping my website in the chat.
Oh, I didn't know you can do that. See, I'm still relatively new to this. I didn't know you could type as you do that. Hi, Sherry. Thanks for joining. Educational healer. Thank you so much for joining. Oh, it's so nice to have people here. But I know there are a lot of names scrolling, and I can't really see without my glasses. So, but I know I get the circle lights on.
It was so wonderful to connect with you again. I mean, this came out of nowhere, and then it's really enjoyable to see you again.
it was so great because I was talking. I've been coming on lives and I've been reading my short stories because I want to adapt a short story into a horror film. Imagine that! And I've been reading Grimm Brothers stories, and people don't really change. It's like, what is this? You know, these stories hundreds of years ago can still apply today. And so I mentioned how I had a QHHT session with you that inspired a story I wrote that's being turned into a novel. And
Wow.
and that was 6 years ago. And how that story still stayed with me so long, where
Wow.
you know, because sometimes you hear stuff, but it takes a while to process, you know, for your body to fully integrate it or understand it, you know, but there's a reason for everything, right? You know, no matter what it is. And so it's turned into this story where I literally see growth in myself in these characters. That's kind of really exciting. So I appreciate it very
Can I
much.
see it or read it somewhere? Is it
I
available?
have I have the short story done, and I'm using the short to develop into a novel. But I'd be happy to send it to you. You
Oh
know,
God, I would love to read it.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's yeah, the Amulet Secret, and it and it's so funny because it was such a tragic vision where I ended up I was kidnapped with my younger sister. We were taken to this huge mansion. We were chained up, and it looked like we were going to die. And it was just like really traumatic. And I'm like, I remember I was crying and crying. And but the younger sister had, you know, like this magic stuff, and I had to protect her. And then it became like this journey of finding her. And but I remember I was crying. And you're like, okay, let's go over here now. But and that was so cool. But because that story stayed with me, I would start getting these dreams about it, or like these visions about it, and I came up with this whole story. So I don't know if that story was imagination or if it was an actual continuation of what I had already been tapped into. And it became about dragons and magic and amulets and symbols and connecting with the others, and you know,
Wow.
telepathy. And so there were just all these elements that I think, are innately natural to us that we just don't really do because so many labels have been put on it. But I was turned into like this really interesting story. Um, so yeah, I would love to share it with you if you'd like to read it. And
I
but
can't wait to read it. Yes.
yeah,
That's amazing. And yeah, so what you're explaining about the dreams and stuff, this happens to others as well, that they get downloads during sessions and then are able to like tell these stories or do healing in a certain way. I mean, there's all kinds of benefits to it. That's because I don't always hear back from people like what it's done for them. So that's really nice to hear how this continued.
well, it's really interesting because there's so many facets to us that we don't know, especially like, you know, having childhood trauma or your parents having trauma from generations that pass on to you, and you never really realize it, but you never really heal that part that needs to be healed. You know,
Yes.
so you know, how do you navigate someone else's stuff that's not yours but you've taken on? You know,
Right.
how do you come to know who you are and love yourself for it? You know,
Yes.
so it takes a lot of work and it doesn't happen overnight. And
No, it's a journey.
yeah, and your service really helps that journey.
Thank you.
So it's a lot better than medication, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah,
So
very therapeutic.
you know, so yeah, people go see him. You know, so
Thank you.
and I can't pronounce your name. I'm so sorry.
No, you did. It's
You
okay.
did. Yeah.
You won. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on here. This was so enjoyable.
Uh,
I'd love to do it again. This is
Yes, we
amazing.
definitely will, and I will share with you the recording too. So, and
Okay.
you, before we go, if anyone has any questions, feel free to DM me or
You won. You
thank
got
you.
it.
I'm so embarrassed. Feel free to reach out. You know, we're happy to answer whatever questions you guys have. Um, I don't think it's anything to be afraid of. You know, it's like you're stepping into your higher self. You're having a conversation with your higher self with guidance, which is
Very
very
good.
exciting. Yeah. All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so
Well,
much.
have
Mwah.
have,
Thank you very
have a
much.
wonderful evening.
Oh,
Thank
you
you for
too.
having me.
Thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks very much.
Thanks for joining.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks.